we're going to open the floor to questions and answers. So if I could ask that we could proceed with that, if you could hold your questions until that time, we can come to the mic and we'll entertain any questions. So I'll turn it back over now to Councillor Fry, and she'll have some closing remarks. Again, sir, if you wait, I'm not saying you can't raise your question, but we'll address them a little bit later. Thank you.
being reactive instead of being. Community is not the place that I grew up in the 80s and the 90s.
A little bit louder.
Sorry, I'm not a great public speaker. No, it's a little too close. My point would be this community is not the community that I grew up in. There's fear, and I feel like this has been writing on the wall for a long time. I feel like this is not something that just came out of nowhere. I feel like our community isn't the safe place that it was in the 90s or 2000s. And I'm not saying that's your guys' fault. I'm just saying the direction that our community has gone in is not the direction that I would feel safe for our community to go in. And I feel that we're being reactive instead of being proactive in solutions that we're going to do. Like we're shutting down programs for children because we're afraid of these kids. Like why can't these adults go and facilitate these like after school facilities? And like I don't have the answers for all this, but I just feel like we are not being we're losing our we are not making sure that we are making sure people are safe. And it's great to sit here and say everyone's doing this and that, but like it's not safe. Our vehicles are not safe. They're broken into every night. I can show you video cameras from my phone. Everybody here probably has a room camera or something like that because they don't feel like their vehicles or houses are safe anymore. To me, it's just the community is not the place that it was, and I don't know necessarily why. And I feel like maybe the justice system is failing us a little bit too. Like these are kids, but they're creating major problems for this community in a sense of like major violence that's not acceptable. So we need to do something to make sure that this doesn't happen and that our families feel safe to be out in our community and do these types of things. That's all I really got to say.
Thank you for that commentary. And again, that's the whole reason we're here tonight. I appreciate your candor and expressing your points of view here. And we do want to be proactive. So we're here tonight to listen, to find out what your concerns are, and then, as Chief said earlier, and Lear Tilly said, collectively, this is a community issue. Community safety, everyone is involved in community safety. Next question. Okay, so go to the mic.
I don't know if everybody, can you all hear me here? My name is Sherry. I'm a born and raised Mount Pearl again. My family are one of the first founders of Mount Pearl. My family still lives here. When I grew up in Mount Pearl, it was the safest place to live. But unfortunately, not only Mount Pearl, we're not immune. We're not immune to crime. We're not immune to the drug problem. We're not immune to a broken justice system that needs to pick up for our children when 13 or 15-year-old children do things like this. And when you read it on some of the community groups that, oh, it's the parents' fault. No, it's not always the parents' fault. And you got to stop blaming parents for these things. We have a broken system. We have no resources in our schools. Our teachers are overworked. They can't keep an eye on the kids like they used to when we were in school. And and God love the RNC. I understand you guys must be under tremendous pressure for resources and not having enough people on the street to try to get this crime reduced. Our drug problem is so bad that my friend who was here tonight lost her daughter this summer, and now she has 5 of her children because the system is broken and the system failed her. And I don't want that to happen in Mount Pearl. But believe me, it's happening. It's happening. It's true. Everyone, it's true. And it's time for us to listen and to look after our children and to look after our grandchildren. It's not fear. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Next up.
Can everyone hear me?
No, you're going to have to be really loud.
Really loud? I can't, I'm too short. Can you hear me now? No? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, let me put up a chair. Put up on the chair.
Test. While they're getting that one set up.
Thank you. I guess I just want to echo, we need to be proactive, not reactive. So we're a family who, we're very active, so we would choose walking over driving. That's just taken from us. I normally would have walked here instead of driving here, but I don't feel safe to do that. At 7 o'clock in the night, I feel safer walking down, on Water Street than I do walking up Ruth Avenue in Mount Pearl. Really, really disappointed that this is the place we're in. But what I want to know from a city, my son is 11. He goes to Mount Pearl Intermediate. We live about a 4-minute walk from school. He now feels unsafe to walk to school by himself on a beautiful sunny day. No, we haven't had many of them, but there have been this morning. Unless he has a friend, he will not walk by himself. I want to know what we can do as a city to make it safe for the kids at school opening and school closing so that they can feel safe to walk to and from school.
Thank you for that question. Is there anybody in the room here that might want to respond to that? Okay, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Colin McNeil, I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations for Spouse. It's a pleasure to be here before you tonight to answer your questions. I'm sure that maybe Melissa, I can address her directly. Can't hear me? Okay. Sorry about that. Keep the mic pretty close. So I just wanted to comment on a couple of things that the RNC is doing in your community. So first and foremost, I'd like to say that we have a fantastic relationship with your city council, very strong. In fact, we just met recently with our executive and
to test out this microphone for a second to see if anybody can hear me here on this microphone better now? Yes? Okay, thank you.
Okay, next question? Comment?
Good evening. My name is Jeff Porter.
A little closer.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
My name is Jeff Porter, and I'm a resident of Mount Pearl.
As loud as you can.
Yeah. And my vested interest is this community. I hear tonight from the council and the RNC that are here tonight of the things that you do. As a resident, I'm concerned of what you're not doing. The RNC, you're here tonight. But I assure you, nighttime and the overnight, you're not patrolling. And that's a fact. Municipal enforcement, after 11 p.m., I don't think your cars are out. In the meantime, you could work collaboratively with the RNC. You could be patrolling and observing and be the eyes and the ears of the lack of patrol that the RNC can't do. They're directed to calls that are immediate 911 calls. It's not the officer's fault. They are directed to the calls. When they get informed information that can be given by municipal enforcement of real-time suspicious activity in the community, they can act on it. But how can an officer be in a police car by themselves, one person in a car, and next to that person go to a call, but have a briefcase next to them with a bunch of files that they have to do? And in the meantime, it can't be done. They're overworked. This community are basically, they see, we heard here tonight, did this just happen? No, it's over a period of time. And as far as I'm concerned, we need to take back our community. And these people have the upper hand. On the streets every single night, they're breaking in to our communities, in our homes. Seniors are frightened to death. And in the meantime, for me, my place was broken into. But a couple of nights later, I got my stuff back. They just came to the wrong house. And that's, I can tell you, that's the way people are feeling right now. Then it's alarming. But with that, I appreciate the RNC, what they do, but I will say the provincial government, as far as I'm concerned, have a part here because they're not giving the money to you guys in the community, the council. They're not giving it to the RNC, they're cutting them back, left, right, and center. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a representative here tonight from the provincial government. But the money is not allocated. So, we have failed. So, we need to step up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up.
Hello, my name is Jana Sullivan, and my family have gone through violence within the last 4 years. And my question is, who's supposed to be supporting us? Because my son went to school with 6 people that assaulted him, left him unconscious, kicked him unconscious, left him in the woods, threw his phone away, and the principal and vice principal of O'Donnell made sure that those 5 of those 6 people could go to their graduation. This happened on a New Year's Eve. 23 to 26 kids went to the RNC, identifying who did this to my son. I'm sorry. And it took the RNC 6 months to investigate, to make an arrest. When 6 men, young men, went to O'Donnell High with blood on their sneakers. So, we have been let down. My husband and I did an on-camera interview with CBC, and the reporter who reported that stopped talking to us. It went to court, and we were told by the judge how the system let us down, how he couldn't do his job because the RNC didn't do their job. The prosecution had 5 videos of how my son was taunted. Nobody supported us. But what is sickening out of it all is the schools. Oh, I guess we have the schools. Look, all I can say is we were made to feel the victim. I went into a courtroom where 2 mothers treated me like my kid was the reason they were there. And I said one word and they threatened to throw me out of court. But yet, they could say what they wanted to say. So yes, we are in a broken system. And how do we know how to go? I want to go further. I want to do this. I want to prevent anything from anybody having to go through what we've gone through. We're putting our house up for sale. I don't want to be a Mount Pearl anymore. I don't, you know, I'm sorry, this may be too much information, but this is my life right now. My son had to move away. These kids that were known to the law were constantly, for 2 years, threatening him. They're still threatening him. I called the RNC and they tell me they don't have time to answer calls. But if the RNC looked up my son's name, they would see that there were 4 times that they came to my house. They came to my house because somebody anonymously made complaints that he was online and he was luring young girls. And then I had an RNC officer who told me that I should teach him that he shouldn't be doing that stuff. It's ridiculous. I could write a book. I could go on, but I will call out the principal of O'Donnell High and the vice principal of O'Donnell High, who was there 2 years ago, made our life hell. My son didn't go through school, high school. My daughter had to stay home and learn from home because she was threatened by one of the assaulters. And the school told me, well, it's her word against his, and I guess we're going to listen to him. So the support needs to come from family, friend. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I just needed to share my story because we've been let down on so many levels. And I don't know where to go. And Mayor Aker, forgive me, but I emailed you, I emailed Pauline, and you were so wonderful. You emailed me back. You responded. I emailed you and you ignored me. And then you came to my door looking for a vote. And when I expressed my feelings, you looked at me and said, I can't get involved in those situations. Well, you got involved now. And it certainly makes my son feel very little that you weren't willing to get involved 3 years ago. Thank you for your time.
Certainly, sorry to hear the circumstance, ma'am, that you went through. But again, I would ask if we not, name individuals here tonight. That's not our intention tonight. It's, yes, to share your experiences and make suggestions. But again, I would ask if we, spoke to the issue and not name individuals. Next up, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud as you
I
can.
just want to say thank you to the lady before me for coming up and sharing her story. It takes a lot of courage to come up and speak truth to power, so thank you. I did prepare just a few notes just to kind of keep myself on track here. My name is Megan. I live on Ashford Drive. I'm here to speak because the solutions that I've seen presented from some of our leadership, I don't feel will be successful in actually improving our public safety. I've seen a lot of social media, petitions, public statements calling for more police and getting tougher on youth offenders. And a lot of people have been demanding a pound of flesh. They've been working through a lot of anger and fear, which is reasonable. I think we can all agree that we want to see justice for survivors of violent crime in our community, but justice looks different for each person. And to support them, we can't make patronizing assumptions about what is best for them. I've worked with survivors of violence in vulnerable populations for over 10 years, and there are a lot of evidence-based studies available to everybody in this room, including our policymakers, that show proven and data-driven policies and supports that we could have in our community. So I've worked through a lot of those reports, and I actually do have a summary that is way too long for tonight, but I hope that our MHAs and our counselors will take a look at what I've written. I will submit it and give it some honest and open-minded thought. A lot of these policies are much more complicated than just adding more police, and while police have a really important part in our justice system, it's doing them a disservice if they're the only player at the table. They need to have supports of social workers, community advocates, mental health experts, and our elected officials. We need to be collaborative, and we need to explore short-term supports as well as long-term investments. I feel that we have an active part in this, and faith that our tax dollars aren't funding knee-jerk reactions that ultimately result in money wasted. What does public safety look like to you? Is it prisons full of people and people isolating in their homes, or is it a community that's worked really hard to ensure everybody feels connected and heard? We're in a really unique opportunity right now because look around us, we have so much political will in the room, and that is lightning in a bottle. So what I really want to encourage folks to do is kind of think about what your community would look like for you in an ideal future, and continue to be an active participant in these conversations. I do appreciate the opportunity to come up and share my thoughts on this, and my call to action would be for everyone in this room to explore what it means to you to truly build community, and to ask our officials to continue these conversations, and most importantly, to hear the words of those with lived experience like the brave woman who came up before me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Hello, can everybody hear me now? Good evening, my name is Morris Clark. I moved to Mount Pearl in 1990 with my wife and family, mainly because I chose it because of what it stood for. It was a great community, great schools, and it was a safe community. And I would frequently get our kids back with their grandkids because we understood that this was the way Mount Pearl continued to be. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I'd like to thank everybody for calling, the counselors and the RNC and MHAs, and especially all of the people, mostly of which I think are seniors like myself. I have some specific questions. I know that the RNC can't answer specific questions. By the way, I think they did a great job in this last development. I know being an RNC officer is not an easy task. Reading online, I discovered that the RNC numbers have dropped in Newfoundland in the last 5 to 6 years. It's between 5 and 10% less now than we had then. So probably one of the reasons you don't see people out doing patrols is because there's less officers to do patrols. So how do we rectify that? So we need more money, obviously. We need more training, more officers, more involvement. And the public needs to demand more policing. So that's something that we all need to look at, like budgeting from governments and things like that. Some specific questions to the RNC is that I know that this was a gang-related thing. The question I have, is this an isolated? I know they can't give me specifics, but how many gangs are operating in Mount Pearl? As a senior, people are afraid to go out at nighttime, right? They don't, because this was a random act. How do you protect against a random act? You can have neighborhood block programs all day long, but you go at nighttime, how do you protect? If you're a senior in your car somewhere, waiting to pick up somebody, how do you protect against a random act? I don't know. This is a serious question. The other thing with the RNC question I'd like to ask is maybe another reason you don't see police officers nighttime is because I don't know if they still have this policy, but budgets mean everything in government. And years ago, they had a gas allowance. So you go at nighttime and you could do a patrol, but your gas mileage or whatever was all logged and recorded. So you did a patrol for 2 or 3 hours, you had to go back to the station. Your gas allowance was used. You don't see those cops on the road unless they get called out specifically. So what can we do about that? Is that still in effect? So we need more police, we need more resources, right? And Mount Pearl is still a great community. I don't think, people think fear that, people, right now people get afraid and then they get angry, right? Fear is related to anger. But I think these problems are all correctable. And I'm very on board with being proactive. You need to be proactive. But when proactive doesn't work, you have to be reactive. So we need both of it. It's two sides of the same coin. We have to be proactive and reactive when necessary. I know that the RNC cannot speak to certain cases before the courts, but there's some questions like, how many gangs are operating in Mount Pearl? Is there just one? Is there more than one? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your question. Anybody with a question would like to respond to that?
Thank you, sir, very much. Where are you? Thank you very much for your comment. I've been around 40 years doing this job. There's never been a gas allowance. That's a myth. There's never been a gas allowance since I've been doing this job. Within relation to our resources and numbers, we currently have 30 officers going through training next year. So our numbers are sufficient. We have 405 on staff. We are allowed for 423. I have 17 going away to training in January, more next July, and we're actively recruiting for experienced officers. Our recruiting process is ongoing and will continue to be doing so. We're a growing organization, answering the demands of our community. These last incidents were a random act. They're unpredictable. We can't predict them. We respond, and you're right. Reactive is not always the best, but we sometimes, in our business, unfortunately, react. We try to be proactive in other areas, such as impaired drivers and those sorts of road stops. I take what you said about your school not being safe, and I think we should have a conversation afterwards, and I can speak with you and to the whole as to what we can do to work with you to make sure your child and all the children who want to walk to school feel safer. That's on us to work with the community and to be a part of that solution, not to sit on the sidelines and just drive by every now and then. There are steps we can take, and we can work with everyone in the community to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Bill. Okay, next up to the mic.
Hi there. I originally got up because you asked if anybody had a suggestion for children walking to school, and I know the teachers are overworked, and I know that there's a lot going on with the schools right now, but I actually follow a page on social media, and it's a group of teachers that get together every morning, pick up kids along a route, and they ride their bikes to school. There's probably 100 along this route. I'm not saying do that, plus we're in Newfoundland, so we're gonna get snow soon. But if the RNC, if the teachers, if the school boards, if you could get together and suggest different things like that, that might be a way to help alleviate some of the nervousness that the kids may have walking to school. The other thing that I wanted to add on and kind of touch on a few people before myself, I was for a long time. We moved into Mount Pearl when I was 10, moved in from St. John's. It's not just a Mount Pearl thing. Now, that was a very long time ago. My point to that is, I wouldn't want to go through the school system right now. My bullying was severe enough that if I was 10, 11, 12, I would not want to go to school right now because the bullying is that much worse. I also want to say thank you to the RNC for their swift action on this. It's a hard thing when it comes to involving, when it involves our children. And we could stand here all day and say it's this person or that person or this person, but we all need to pull resources. Resources need to be had. People need to sit down together, not just the RNC, not just MHAs, not just school boards. We need people to sit down together and talk it out. And community volunteers, have community volunteers come in on these meetings. So not just, you know, our MHAs and the RNC, pull people from the community, right? People who are afraid to go out. My mother will not go walk in St. David's Park anymore. That was her favorite place to walk. She hasn't walked there now in months, but she definitely won't go now. And it's not just in the evening, it's during the day. These things are happening during the day. So, yeah, that's just kind of my thought. Bring everybody together, including people that want to from the community.
Thank you for those suggestions. Next up.
Hi there. I have a couple notes that
A little closer. A little closer.
Okay, how's this? Thank you very much for hosting this. I think it's important to listen to the community. I think that
A little louder.
listening to the community and engaging with the community is probably one of the best ways that we can prevent this kind of youth crime. I think that often the police respond to crime. The police don't necessarily prevent crime. And I think that also blaming the parents washes the hands of the other adults that lives that can have responsibility and authority over their actions. It's not just the parents. And I think to that we also need to have more community programs, both paid and unpaid, with volunteers and with steady workers who can have these places where children can go to, so they're not engaging with other organizations like gangs. If there were other things that the children could, that kids could do, maybe this wouldn't be seen as an option. I would also like to say that I think that we need to listen to students. I hope that in this response that students are being asked questions and students are being listened to and engaged. I think that they're an important piece that we need to listen to, and so far this conversation has been very top-down. I think that only listening to parents and only listening to the police doesn't listen to children, and I think that we need to focus their perspectives and their beliefs and what they think as well. I hope that counts for the students.
Thank you, Emma. I didn't know you had to complete, but thank you. Thank you for those suggestions and comments.
Get as close as you can.
I am here speaking this evening on behalf of myself, my 2 little girls, and my husband, who was violently attacked by a group of teens with weapons outside of Morris Academy. At 5:34 p.m. on Friday, November 22nd, my husband informed me over the phone that he was at Morris to pick up our kids, and that he would call me right back. At 5:39 p.m., I answered a call from my husband. I expected to hear the familiar, "Hi, Mom," from the back seat. Instead, he was shouting into the phone. He had been attacked. He shouted that I had to get to the kids. He was in a house. He had been hit in the head with a bat. He was bleeding a lot. The phone hung up. You've heard what happened. There are things that don't make it into the headlines. Like how I had to go down to the school multiple times to calm my kids the day that they went back. Like how they haven't been back to after-school care, and they haven't been back to Girl Guides. How my husband hasn't been able to work a full day yet, and how our house stays dark now because the lights make his head hurt. These are just a few of the impacts felt by my family from this one single violent attack. Mount Pearl has had considerably more than just this one event, and it ripples through each of these households within our community. I am of the opinion that the increased violence and crime we are victim to in Mount Pearl is indicative of the widespread issues facing Newfoundland and Labrador. No one agency is to blame, though none are innocent. That emergency response time was in the range of 20 minutes, while my husband sheltered in a house and my children sheltered in a school. Myself and others arrived long before the RNC. For 20 minutes we waited, wondering where the attackers were. Be it due to lack of training, underfunding, a demoralized workforce, or worst case, complacency, a responding RNC officer informed my husband and me that the RNC would be unlikely to apprehend these individuals. At that moment, on that street, another individual was attacked by the same group. To the councillors and Mayor of Mount Pearl, we have heard your platitudes, but I ask, what have you done to improve public safety in your city? Mount Pearl, the city within a park, is no longer safe for its residents. The victim count is mounting. Citizens are afraid to walk on the paths or linger in public spaces. This council spent $23,000 this past year on research into how to attract and retain new residents. I wonder if community safety would be a concern to new residents. When we look back to the January attack and other recent ones, these acts occurred in public or school zones. A basic safety standard should be created regarding lighting conditions and cameras in key areas for all public institutions, including schools. I understand that some of these issues are beyond our town council, but we elected you to speak for us. We look to you to fix what you can and represent this community at higher levels for things beyond your control. In the last 2 decades, this province has lowered its youth conviction rate from 74% to 49%, and increased extrajudicial measures by 26%. Measures other than remand for youth sentencing are admirable. However, if it is underfunded and unmanageable, it does not help the youth and it does not help the community. According to a report produced by Ernst & Young from July 2023 on social work in Newfoundland and Labrador, the case ratio was 1 to 20, and there were no specially trained youth corrections officers as seen in other provinces. It is my hope that the provincial government recommendations by Ernst & Young quickly and move up the promised RNC funding from 2026 to 2025. These resources are needed now and not some distant time in the future. I'm calling on all public organizations and government officials within Newfoundland and Labrador to work together to determine an action plan, implementation schedule, and reporting on the solutions required to fix the violent crimes in our communities. The youth offenders' lives matter, the victims' lives matter, and the future of this community matters.
Thank you for taking the time to share that. And again, we're terribly sorry for what your husband and family have gone through and are going through. So we're so sorry to hear that's what happened. But again, we're here tonight to make valid points about agencies working together. That's why we call this meeting. We know that this is an issue and there's fear and concern in our community. And you're right, the council can't do it alone. Police can't do it alone. Government can't do it alone. We have to work collectively, collaboratively to bring the safety down to the levels that we want. But I do sincerely appreciate you having the courage and taking the time to get up and make your statement tonight. So thank you so much. Next gentleman, please.
Evening. Name is Cody Mercer, resident of Mount Pearl. First off, I'd like to thank all the individuals that have shared their lived experience tonight. I can't imagine what it was like and is like going through the situations that you've been faced with. While I agree that the initiatives that have been discussed earlier, like the neighborhood watch, et cetera, are great for deterrence, they only deter individuals like somebody swiping a package that was laid on the doorstep. That's not why I'm here tonight, and I don't imagine that it's why many others are here tonight. The issue is the violent crime. The likelihood of an individual, or even two volunteers taking part in a neighborhood watch program, deterring 6, 8, 10 individuals that are even ranging from 13 to 17 years old that are equipped with weapons is very, very minimal. If not, you're putting yourself at risk. Worst case scenario, there's an interaction, and the individual that are part of the volunteers, they would be held more to account than the offenders themselves. That is a problem. The Youth Criminal Justice Act is not a problem that we're going to solve at the municipal level, nor the provincial level. It's a federal jurisdiction. Not being held to account for the acts that they commit consciously and knowingly. If you have the sense to pick up a weapon, have 5 other individuals around you or more, and attack another innocent bystander, you should be held to account for those decisions and actions. The recidivism rate, or the reoffense rate in Canada on the last Statistics Canada report for youth offenders under violent criminal acts was 50%. That's a coin flip. Not only that, the escalation rate, or the likelihood of an escalation in severity.
City for 17 years, decided to move here to raise my family before they were born. Have 2 boys currently in the high school system. Oh, really? I'm sorry. So I have 2 boys in the high school system, lived here for 17 years, and when I'm done this job, I'll be back guidance counseling in the fall, most likely in Mount Pearl. I can certainly say I would have loved to have seen Bernard Davis here tonight, the Minister of Public Safety and Justice. I don't think Bernard is here. I think a lot of Bernard, but I think he should have been here. This event rocked the province. This is not just a municipal event. It's
Big thing was, Mom, what happens if something happens in my school? Because it's a reality. It's very much something that they're concerned about. They connect. If those violent situations that are a very real possibility to them present, and I'm not here to debate, start those conversations. There's a lot of solutions to be had from those really smart, engaged kids that want to be involved. On the justice system side of things, we are under-resourced. We have a system in Whitburn that is not providing a service to the kids who need it when they find themselves there. Half capacity, and I've had a conversation with someone who knows this situation. They are at half capacity of what they can hold, and they're not able to hold some of the offenders, and I'm going to speak generally, they are not able to hold offenders because they don't have the capacity. And those offenders are put back on the streets, ready to have those conversations with their buddies and continue the violence that's in our communities. And we really need to find a way to stop this cycle. We're hearing people who are breaking their orders, which means there's previous offenses. We have people being now charged for multiple situations over multiple days, and this is not good enough. And now we'll find situations where youth are back on the streets to reoffend without any of the supports behind them to try to correct this and to do better. And finally, I think much of what people are saying, we really need to find a way to connect our communities again. We don't have our youth voice here. We need to find a way to connect with our youth. We need to find a way to connect with our most vulnerable populations in our community. And I can throw all kinds of ideas, but I'm not the professional here. I'm not the person living these experiences. How, connecting with those individuals who are the most vulnerable, as with the people who have
the smarts and the resources and the training and the research to put behind this and make sure we have limited resources. I would love to be able to say, you know, let's throw tons of money, but how do we spend our money better? How do we figure out getting the right people at the table who can have these ideas and create a solution that is really grassroots? And I think until you can get people buying into it, their policies are great, procedures are great, but they're paper-pushing exercises unless you figure out a way to live them and figure out a way to get your community behind them. And really, like, I do think we just need to figure out a way to get our communities to be neighborhoods again, to get people who are showing up for, you know, the fundraisers, they're volunteering, they're, you know, they're connecting in our schools, they're, you know, all of those things, and figuring connect our youth to that so that they feel a purpose, they feel like they have a place, and that people are believing in them. And I will leave it at that, but I really think figuring out those connections is key.
My name is Dave Hall. I live on St. Andrews Avenue, just around the corner from where these incidents happened there 10 days, 2 weeks ago. And on television, the RNC Compassion, I sort of sit down and watch that every night because it gives us, the public, an insight of what's going on with the constabulary, with the patrols, and how they operate. And I'd like to congratulate them on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So?
Hi, yes, my name is William Neville, and I'm a longtime resident here of Mount Pearl. And unfortunately, this is not an isolated incident. This is a trend. And I think it's, you know, it's only going to get worse. Our government, unfortunately, is, you know, missing the point on the needs of the people. They're spending our money, they're wasting it on things that, you know, like filling their own pockets of the politicians within the party that's elected. So our government is broken, they're not listening, they're not going to do anything about it. Unfortunately, we just keep voting red and blue. And until we get some new people in there that are going to do things for the people, not for themselves, things are not going to change. Other point I want to make is, you know, kids that are left alone in groups are going to misbehave. We all know that. Lord of the Flies, right? Unsupervised kids that are left to roam the city. Parents have got to take a more active role in their kids' lives. And I know that's a tough call. I know how busy everybody's lives are. Okay, it's hard to make ends meet. There was a time when you had single parent income and you could make ends meet. Now you've got two parents out working full time. You've got parents who can't afford to have their kids in programs. Programs are too expensive, whether it's after-school programs, you know, athletic programs, you name it. Okay, people just can't afford it. Salaries are not keeping up with inflation. And the government is not doing a good enough job. And it's soon time for us, the people of this province, to take action. We need 100 times the number of people in this room here to be down at Confederation Hill in order for them to hear a peep out of us. And that's sad. And I just want to commend all the people here that, you know, RNC, Paul Lane, I think he's doing a fantastic job. I want to thank our counselors for being here, for listening. I really like how civil this is. You know, this could have been, you know, a big fight, a big argument, a bit, you know, I think everybody here should be congratulated on kind of keeping it in a calm and manner. But the fact of the matter is, it's a trend, so it's time for things to change. It's no good to treat the symptom, we need a cure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rosalind Pratt. I've been a resident of Mount Pearl since 1973. Lived here most of my married life, all of my married life. Raised 2 children, they're now adults, and my son and his family live in Mount Pearl. Besides being a Mount Pearlite, I am the chair of the Mount Pearl Citizens Crime Prevention Committee. I'll bet there's a lot of people in this room don't even know that such a committee exists. Well, we've been around for a long time, actually 20 years next year, and I've been a part of that committee for a long time. Thank you, Mount Pearl, City of Mount Pearl, and everybody who's attended here tonight. Wonderful information is being shared. I really commend the city for pulling this meeting together so quickly. I think we are facing a very different society now than when my kids were young and they could walk to school and feel safe. The committee that I sit on and I chair, we have a mandate with 4 different things. One is to partner with the community and partner with the police and the municipal enforcement. They sit on our committee. We're a very small committee, but you know what? We do a lot of work in the community that doesn't even really, a lot of people don't even know what we do. We also provide educational sessions. We go to daycares and we teach the kids about safety. We go to the seniors. They love to see us come, and as long as we bring some prizes, they listen to us, talk about internet safety, talk about road safety, talk about the seniors driving, and they love to see us come and do sessions. But we would reach more people. But how do we do that? We need more people on our committee. For us to continue as a committee, I hate to say this, but the majority of the committee are now all seniors. I'm one of them. I could be sitting serve tea instead of talking, but you know, everybody knows I love to talk anyway. But the bottom line is our committee really needs your help. Crime prevention is everybody's responsibility. It's mine, it's yours, it's the police, it's the city, it's everybody's responsibility. And if we're going to solve this, and I don't mean solve it, the police have a job to do, but we have to be proactive as well. And that's what our committee is all about, being proactive. Preventing crime is everybody's responsibility. And we'll do that by having strategies, and I mean strategies that help us protect ourselves. The Neighborhood Watch program is a wonderful program, but we need more neighborhoods to sign up. Danielle does a tremendous job of encouraging people to be part of it. But the only way that the community is going to be safe with Neighborhood Watch is if more communities join our committee. The other part about crime prevention is that we partner with the committees, and we also partner with other things like the schools. We go into the schools if we're asked. But we need to be asked by the community to present these sessions. I mean, I can't go knocking on everybody's door. I try and say, we're here, we'll do sessions, but we need you to ask us to come and present on community safety. How can we keep our neighborhoods safe? There's all kinds of strategies, but we need to know what they are to be able to do them. So I'm asking people here tonight, if you're really interested in preventing crime, because that's what crime prevention is all about, give us your names and your email addresses and whatever. We'll connect with you. We just got 2 university students. I went to a volunteer thing at MUN in the fall. We got 2 university students. They actually live in Mount Pearl, and they helped us out on Halloween night when we went out with Mount Pearl and gave out reflectors. So we do all kinds of things, but we're kind of under the wire. So we really want to be more proactive, and the only way we can do that is we have everybody come on board and be part of Mount Pearl Citizens Crime Prevention. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mike.
Hello, my name is David Roy, and I've been a resident of Mount Pearl for about 17 years. Have a 7-year-old in grade 2. So this, looking forward to, you know, what we're going to face if this continues to get worse. There's a couple of things I just want to mention, because there were very good points made earlier. I don't want to reiterate what others have said, but crime prevention is a term I've heard many, many, many times tonight. I think it's unrealistic as a term. I appreciate it. We need crime reduction, because the trends in crime in this community are going up. We need to reduce crime in this community. We will never prevent it all. It will always exist. That's why we will always have a police force. But if trends are moving in a direction where we're getting increased crime, we're doing the wrong things. So we have to move forward with crime reduction. How do you do that? One of the communications that I've heard almost everybody said is we need more resources. We understand we need more money. We need more police officers. We need more people involved. Economics and politics follow 2, 3, 4-year budget cycles. The reality is that if you prevent crime, you reduce crime, you take people out of the system, the long-term benefits are tremendous from a pure financial perspective. I've heard a number, and I'm sure it's wrong what I'm about to say, so please don't quote me, but it costs somewhere in the lines of $100,000 a year to keep someone in a federal prison in this country. $100,000. If we take those 7 youth that were involved in this recent attack, if 3 of them end up being criminals in their life, and they each spend decades in prison, we're talking tens of millions of dollars because of where these people are about to go in their life. If we were to spend a tiny portion of that to reduce crime, to reduce the
Good evening, my name's Toby. The recent incident is not a one-off, it's an escalation. This has been going on for years in the city. It's only just being publicised recently because of the severity of the incident. Now there's 2 incidents that have impacted myself and my family in the last few years. One can be addressed by council, the other is a failure in the justice system. The first incident I want to refer to is within municipal property of the Summit Centre and also within the glacier. As the weather gets colder, the teenagers who have been out roaming around start moving inside in municipal buildings because it's cold outside and they need to warm up. You end up referring these issues to staff who are in there. The staff are powerless to do anything about it, and it then becomes your responsibility to phone up municipal enforcement and try and get them to come out and deal with the issue. And they may check their cameras and try and see what's going on, but their response time is not fast enough. Staff won't actually to get them to come out, and it's horrendous and needs to be addressed going forward. The other incident I want to refer to, the teenagers that we became victimised of, and it began 4 years ago, to the point where we then had to install cameras. We were then able to then get images of them coming round, harassing us, victimising us on multiple nights. With these images, you can't even go to the schools to try and get them identified because the administration, because they're not allowed to help, is what we were told. We then had to use other means to identify these people. We then had an RNC file opened, informed the RNC, and after that, they then went to those individuals, spoke to their parents, and then what happened the following year? They were back doing it again. Because there's a failure there within the justice system. The RNC did as much as they could, however their hands were tied as to what they could do further going forward. These are items that do need to be addressed, and the realisation needs to be there's continuing escalation going on, and this needs to be addressed across the city and across the province as well. Thank you.
Our last speaker is going to come to the mic. Thank you.
Oh, last speaker. Can everyone hear me?
A little louder.
So my name is Melissa. I have been a resident of Mount Pearl for 4 years now. Much like my fellow resident Toby said earlier, this is not a new issue. This is an escalation. We had an incident, myself and my husband, in front of our home it's almost 2 years ago to the day now, where a delivery driver had his vehicle stolen directly in front of our home by 2 young people. Those offenders, they were never found, and again, that is what it is. We did have measures in place. We did everything that we could. We did have a security system in place and adequate lighting, but again, we can't prevent it. So, of course, an increase in community safety and policing issues is essential, but an increase in community funding is also imperative. So I'm talking programs like the
Scouts program, Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, Girl Guides. They all offer community programming within the region to help young people reach their full potential and keep them engaged in the community. There's many studies out there with data that proves that engaged and supported young people will positively contribute to our communities and will serve our communities. But these programs are not possible without continued and assured funding from all levels of government. I also want to add here that we also know that there's a need for a reform within our adult correction system, but there's certainly one that's also needed within our youth correction system as well. The current iteration of the system is designed to keep offenders out of the system and get them out of the system. But what support and what is that doing for our young offenders when we're just releasing them back to the community into the same situation that they were before, with no new supports in place and no new coping mechanisms in place? That is a gross injustice to both not only the victims but also the offenders. So I would call on all levels of government here today, and especially the provincial government, to look into a
for the people that were assaulted, for the families that are affected, for the students that feel unsafe because we know these alleged assailants were their classmates, and for the community. What mental health resources were missing for the alleged assailants, because I strongly believe that this could have been prevented if they felt heard and understood as individuals in the first place. I also think of the trends of violence we've seen in teens. One instance that particularly comes to mind was the PWC attack that left a student with life-altering trauma, and I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure he almost died. I would also like to make note that the RNC in Mount Pearl was less than a 5-minute drive from where these assaults took place. So building on the comment that was already made by a direct family member who was directly affected, 20 minutes for an assault like this is disappointing for somebody like myself to hear. Finally, I would like to thank the city for organizing this. I'm pleased to come together to discuss this, and I look forward to hearing what comes from this from both police and the city. Thank you.
Maybe I'm going to have the last word. I've been living here 3 years, and I came from a small community, a very small community, so maybe I'm not qualified to even talk on crime. The only crime I know is watching TV and hearing about something, but since I've been here, Mount Pearl has been very welcoming to me, I must admit. My family and I have felt very welcome, very safe. Except about a month ago, I went for a walk. I walked the trails like a lot of people have said. And as I walked the trail one evening, a young fellow came towards me. He had a knife. And he was talking to somebody on the phone. Now, I won't say what his name was because I heard the girl telling him to come back. And she was using his name over and over. He walked by me, so I'm walking to the side. Anyway, make a long story short, I looked at him, of course. He said, "Don't worry." He said, "I'm not going to stab you." So I walked by, but this made me wary, so I kept looking back. And at that time, I realized, hey, you know what? You're in a big city now. And then when this happened the other night, I started to think a little bit, and I thought to myself, there's one thing missing from this whole equation, and as I look around the room here, a lot of these people here are the same age that I am. Like I said, grew up in a small community. And you know what? There's no consequence anymore. Kids know that. We know that. Everybody knows that. There's no consequence. And we're not going to solve that right here. Too bad the MP is not here, because we can't solve it. That's got to be done by Hollowell and the federal courts, whoever does that. But kids know that. They know they can go do things. They can put a bat to somebody, put the boots to somebody. Like, I can't even comprehend that. Maybe they're wired different than I am. But when I grew up, if there was a troublemaker around our area, it was normally one. He was the leader, or she was the leader, and the rest just followed along. Now, how you're going to solve that, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to break that cycle. But I do know you've got to have consequences for your actions. And everybody knows that's in this room when they grew up, if they went wrong, there were consequences. And no good to call the police because dad or mom already dealt with it by the time the police got there. Now, that's what bothers me most. Yes, maybe in some cases we can. But my father used to say, what's in the cat is also in the kitten. Now, it makes me angry to know that When it gets dark, now my wife can't walk home from work some evenings when I'm not there. She got to stay there and wait for another worker for hours so she can come home. I'm not having her out in the daytime, let alone the nighttime. Before I go, I'll say to the RNC, I see them at 5 o'clock in the morning. I do out there because I go to work at 5 in the morning and I do see 3 and 4 RNC officers out there. So I must commend them on that. But I'm going to tell you right now, I can't sit in the corner and cower in my house as soon as it gets dark at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. I refuse to do it, and I think these people, it's time for us to take back the city. We can't do that. We can't let the prisoners run this. So like I said, as long as there's no consequences, this will continue, trust me. Thank you very much.